I've been doing it for 7 years. I don't think there's anyone that hasn't been affected by it. It's not taking you down a notch to be able to serve others. It actually will lift you up. But it's giver's gain. That when you give, and you just give, and you give, and you give a little more, it will come back to you. If people only knew the transformation that would take place when you step in this room. Don't let this be an event that you do one time and go on feeling good about, and that's it. See, an event appears on a calendar one time, once a year. A process happens every single day. And I cannot wait to continue to share a journey with you.
Please join me in welcoming our guest speaker, Mr. Jay Johnson.
Thank you, Joanne. It's a pleasure. Woo! Good afternoon, everybody. How you doing? Oh, you've got to bring more than that. This has been the party group right here, too. This is a day we're celebrating. I know that for a fact. When Joanne called me and asked if I would be interested, and I heard what this was about, I said I would clear everything off my calendar. I would drive across any length of miles to be here to celebrate all of you. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart. What an amazing, amazing day. I was uplifted from the time this started off. I had chills watching you all walk down the aisleway. I had chills watching the flag posted. And what a beautiful rendition of the national anthem and of the play. Can we give that another round of applause? Man. You know what? One thing I know to be true is you didn't just wake up and say, you know, I think I'm going to enroll in South Texas Votech. Somewhere, somebody said, yes, I did. I know that it didn't just happen yesterday. I know that this decision started at least 10 months ago, maybe a year ago for some of you, but it was a decision that you didn't take lightly. You know, maybe it was a dream. Maybe someone issued a challenge or a dare to you, and you thought, I'll take you up on that. I'll prove you wrong. Maybe it was because you were just looking for more opportunity and you were looking to do something for your family and something for you. All I can say to you is it's a good thing you listen to yourself. You see, in order for something to change for you, something has to change within you. And I think a lot of people miss that point. Let me tell you why it's important. There are a great many people who have dreams and goals and aspirations, and yet they never, ever go after them. They don't act on them. They think about it. They do a lot of talking. They don't do a lot of doing. I just heard one of the previous faculty members talk about your actions. Your actions speak louder than words. Ralph Waldo Emerson said, your actions speak so loudly that I can't hear what you're saying. But I can see you, and I can see what you've done. I can see what you've done to put you in this position today, and that is uplifting to me. See, these people that think about it, but they don't do it, they fail to realize another very basic fact, that we don't get what we want. We want a lot of things, true? But we get what we believe. I'm going to say that one more time, because I want you to hang on to this. We don't get what we want. We get what we believe, and it starts by believing in ourselves. It starts by absolutely understanding that there's nothing we can't do if we're willing to put in the work. And you, graduates, have put in the work. It basically boils down, your actions boil down to what Henry Ford said. He said, whether we believe we can or whether we believe we can't, we're right. It starts with our beliefs, and you believed in yourself. So let me ask you something. Why do some people have goals, dreams, aspirations, but they never achieve success? I'll tell you why. It's because many of them get stuck in fear. They get stuck in fear of saying, but what if I don't succeed? As a coach, When I'm working with clients and a client says that to me, I love looking at him and saying, but what if you do? See, you can stay in the what if game all day long. The only way to know is to get out and do. So you believed in yourself and you put action behind it. James Allen is an author who wrote a book that I absolutely love called As a Man Thinketh, right? And in this case, think human. I want it to be, it's gender neutral. It's all of us. As a Man Thinketh. And he said, men are anxious to improve their circumstances, but they're unwilling to improve themselves. You've got to be willing, and you were. You stepped up and answered the call. And see, you get it. You get it, and it's evident by the fact that you're sitting in this room in front of your faculty and administrators and your families and your friends and your colleagues. You have put in the work. You're here. You know, you may have had some of those same fears, those same doubts, those same false and limiting beliefs that other people fall victim to every day. But you all, the graduates, pushed on. I did underperform. I did do just enough to get by. I was a high C student probably, and when I graduated high school, you know, I'm looking out at some of you right now, and I see that you're wearing the sashes, right? I know it's called laudes, right? Summa cum laude, magna cum laude. But for this instance, I'm going to say laud, right? We have magna cum laudes, and when I graduated, everybody just said, thank the Lord, right? They were just ready to see me move on. But I got to tell you, something changed in me at some point, just as it's now changing for each and every one of you. I love what Mr. Dalen Childress said, right? It's about muscle memory. You've now proven to yourself that you can do this, and you've got to keep exercising it and keep doing it. So I want you to go out and continue to impress on others that they can do it because you've done it. Enjoy this day. Take the time to celebrate all that you've accomplished. And then I want you to get back in the saddle and stay committed to continued growth. Personal growth is a process. It's not something you just do one time. Don't let this be the finish line today that you cross and you're like, woo, I'm glad I did it. And then you never do anything else again to stretch your mind and to challenge yourself. I want to leave you with this final quote. There are far, far better things ahead than we ever leave behind. C.S. Lewis. This is just a marker in time for you, and it's going to be a tremendous catapult, a point to launch from as you go out to do great things. The people in this room today, they're proud of you. I'm proud of you, and I leave you with this challenge. Go forth and do great things. Thank you for letting me be with you this afternoon.
Listen, it's a pleasure to be with you and spend the time with you today. I want to ask you a question to start off. If I was to ask you who you think of when you hear game changer, who comes to mind? I listen across the room. I'll tell you when I ask that question to other audiences, I often get a variety of answers, but oftentimes I hear sports athletes' names get dropped. And I'm not saying that that is a bad thing. Somebody coming up in the bottom of the ninth, right? 3 runs down and 2 outs, and they crush one over the fence and bring it home. Game changer. There is no doubt about it. If you have watched the events that have taken place, the sad, tragic events that have taken place over the last couple months, from the hurricanes devastating, right, our coastlines and states, and Puerto Rico and other territories, as well as the tragedy last week in Las Vegas, there were, in the midst of all of that, game changers. I want to tell you about a game changer that, there we go. I want to tell you about a game changer real quick. He was born into a championship family. In fact, his grandfather was widely regarded as the greatest, still is today, the greatest racer of all time. And you know, when you're born into something like that, when you're part of a family that has a little bit of notoriety attached to them, often those expectations are passed down to the children. They think, well, since the grandfather's like that, the children and the grandchildren are going to be like that as well. Well, this wasn't the case for this person I'm describing, this entity. Although the grandfather was a champion, the father never achieved the same level of success. And when you read about him today, they often have this common theme. He had a bad attitude. He had a bad attitude. And I just want to set some context for you to show you exactly who I'm talking about, because right now you may be trying to guess. You're trying to think who's a racing family and a grandfather, and here he is. Seabiscuit. How many of you have seen the movie? Raise your hand. Book by Laura Hillenbrand, right? Hope I said her name right. Fantastic story, true story. And by the time Seabiscuit came around, they viewed him as going to be the same cut of stock as his father. His father was hardtack, sired by Man of War. So they said, if Dad had a bad attitude, that's probably going to be Seabiscuit's stock in life. They looked at Seabiscuit and they said, he's also kind of a small thoroughbred, to be honest with you, compared to other horses. So hardtack, they would open the gate and hardtack would always refuse to leave. The other horses would take off racing. Not hardtack, hold his ground, not moving. So when Seabiscuit got to a point where he could start entering the circuit and racing, they never ever put any belief in him. They would run him, they would compete him against other horses, and every time they got to the point where they were approaching the finish line, that final stretch, they would pull back on the reins instead of unleashing him. Time and time again, Seabiscuit had ingrained in himself that he wasn't as good, that he wasn't as worthy, and that his place in life was not to be the winner. Until new owners bought him and gave him new trainers. And they saw in that horse something that can't be measured anytime. And that's true of everyone in this room. The heart. John Maxwell said this recently, and I really latched onto it, and I believe it to be so true. He said, you know why going the extra mile makes such a difference? Because most people aren't even willing to go the first. That is right on the money. What does this have to do with being an everyday game changer? You ready? It has absolutely everything to do with it. Because tomorrow morning you're going to wake up and have the freedom of choice to decide how you're going to represent yourself, how you're going to represent your organization, what your character is going to be known for. And from my perspective, when you're really looking at leadership, there's only two alternatives. And if you're concerned with doing right more than being right, you're a game changer. Thank you very much.
Let me share what I routinely hear when I go inside companies. This is how we know when we're with an amazing company like what you are. So I'm going to ask another question. Marco, close your ears, sir. Which room in this facility has the guillotine? The guillotine, right? You pull the cord, the big blade comes down, off with the head. Doesn't exist. What? What? A company like this doesn't have a guillotine room? The good ones don't. The good ones don't. But when I tell you that we go out into other companies and we talk with them, I have people privately on the side. Now, I don't mean in the literal sense that there's a guillotine sitting in the back corner of a room, but they will say, Jay, what you're seeing, this isn't real. This is not normal day-to-day operations. This is not what's going on here. And Jay, I got to tell you, I love everything you're saying. I appreciate the fact that culture means something, and I want to be a part of a company that has culture. But Jay, we can't change this overnight. It's been this way too long. And I go, you're right. Nobody gets where they're at without having gone through a series of steps, right? We are today where we are because of decisions and choices we've made in the past. That's true on an individual level, and it's certainly true as a company. But I always look them in the eye, and this is what I remind them. I'm telling you, I live this out in my own life. Becky lives this out, and from talking with some of you before we started today, I believe this is true for you. I look them in the eye and I say, you're right. You can't change it overnight, but you can do so daily. You hear what I'm saying? You can do so daily. You're responsible for you. That's where it starts. your attitude, your actions, your professionalism, you being extraordinary, you being the one that gives that extra attention and listening to the client and hearing what their needs are, not assuming what their needs are, listening to what their needs are. But I'm a high I, right? I'm a people person, love to have fun, and so boomers in the room, I'm hanging out with you. Because when she said raise your hands, you all broke out into the wave.
They did.
Right? It was going down the road and around the room. Anyways, that's fun. Listen, valuing people is critically important to every one of us. It is at the root of everything that I do. I remind myself of it every minute of every day, to stop, to take time, to, no kidding, look someone in the eye, to listen to them, and listen with the intent to understand rather than with the intent to respond. Boy, what the world could learn from that. So there's an important piece to valuing others. But I want to ask you, what does it mean? What does it really mean, right? Because we throw words out sometimes in our daily talks, the way we communicate with someone. And so we'll say something like that. What does it mean to value someone? Go ahead, Ed. I love it. He said, caring about others' needs, putting their needs before your own needs, paraphrasing. But Ed, you're exactly right. And it makes a difference. When someone treats you that way, I guarantee you, you feel it and you appreciate it. You may not acknowledge it in the moment, but you know when it's happening. Back to when we were talking about those companies we admire and respect earlier, and someone said it's about service. That's one of the things that's going on there, is they're feeding your need, maybe literally feeding if it's out in a restaurant, but they're tending to your needs, and you appreciate that. People love feeling important. But who really determines it? Who really determines if value is taking place?
On behalf of the LaRue family, I promise you that it means more than you know to look out and see faces of family, friends, loved ones, co-workers that have been instrumental in this journey that they've been on for the last 23 years. Dennis, I say to you publicly, I just want to thank you for trusting me enough, and it is a lot of trust that you just placed in me because you don't know what's coming, but allow me to be a part of you and your family's ceremony.
And I'm looking past the OU Texas rivalry.
Yes, we won't talk about college sports rivalry. Listen, I'm a little bit of a non-traditionalist, right? Some of you that will probably strike fear in your hearts if you've ever heard me speak. But for those of you that have never attended a military retirement, it's often standard practice that somebody will stand up and they'll recant a person's entire career down to the minute detail. And I'm not going to do that today. I am going to talk to you about where this family has been, a few milestones that happened along the way. I'm going to talk to you about some significant moments that happened in their life. But I can just promise you this, that service, whether you're in uniform or a civilian serving this great nation, it is an honor, it's a privilege, and that word is synonymous with sacrifice. And that's what this family has done for the last 23 years, and I know that they will continue to do. And I wanted to set that for you because for the 23 years that this family served this nation, that's what they were serving under. And we've just been in a constant grind of defense and deployments and trying to make sure that we are postured to protect. And so in 1992, Dennis, I could have made a rhyme right there. In 1992, Dennis LaRue. He arrives at Lackland Air Force Base. He's in basic training. And for those of you that have ever gone through this experience, this is nearby at Lackland. He's on dorm guard duty one night. This is where all the other airmen, enlistees, trainees are sleeping in their beds. Dorm guard's responsibility is to make sure that if a fire breaks out or anything happens, they're that warning bell. They're that alarm, that klaxon. So he's on duty, and he gets a knock on the door. And when you're on dorm guard, that's the worst thing, because you know who's standing on the other side. Are you with me? It's a military training instructor, right? They've got the brimmed hat. And so he has to go over to the door, and he had a female military training instructor, correct?
Sure did.
And so he's peering through the window, and there's a protocol he has to go through, and, dorm, whatever, he gives the number, probably B3 identifies it. It's funny how these things get etched in your mind, right? But he has to give his reporting statement, and then she asks something like this. I'm going to ad lib, but this, it made me chuckle. She said, "Airman LaRue, are you expecting a baby?" And he said, "Ma'am," or whatever they call. Usually you don't call an MTI ma'am or sir, right? You give rained on more. But he probably addressed her by her rank and name. And she asked the question again, and he said, "Yes, yes, my wife was expecting a baby. Congratulations, she had a baby." And trainee LaRue said, "Ma'am, what did she have?" And being a military training instructor in that rigid environment, she said, "A baby, I said." But he didn't even get, at that moment in time, who it was, but it was, of course, their daughter Ashley. Was born while he was in basic training. So you want to talk about learning the value of sacrifice and service right off the get-go? Jamie went through the birth of their firstborn without him at her side. I woke up laying in a ditch along the side of the road. I was 6 years old and covered in blood, and I had no idea how I got there. 2 days later, Christmas Day to be exact, I found myself sitting in a back bedroom of my aunt's house, 60 stitches in my head, and my sister sitting next to me, when our aunt walked in, and she had a very solemn look about her face. And in a hushed voice, she said, "Kiddos, I'm afraid I have some terrible news. And your father would want to be here to share this with you if he could, but he's still in the hospital. And listen, there's no easy way for me to tell you this, so I'm just going to say it. Your family was hit by a drunk driver head on, and your mother was killed. And I'm sorry, but we love you." And I remember my sister Kelly, just a few years older than me, she looked at me, she said, "Don't worry, I'll take care of you." Now, I don't know what it was about that event that led me to believe that it needed to be an excuse in my life. See, all the way through my teenage years, I used it as that, and I never applied myself to anything. I never gave my full to anything. I always held back. See, maybe it was sympathy that I craved. I loved the outpouring of emotion that came to me from people saying, "Oh, well, he lost his mother." Maybe it was I thought only adversity and challenges and bad things happened to me. But that's not true. We all face those, don't we? It's a matter of how we deal with them. But you know what I really forgot? I forgot that there's nothing that happens in our life that God can't see us through. See, he doesn't abandon us in those moments. That's when he comes alongside us. See, God uses our stories to help others. God gives us talent. That's his gift to us. What we do with it is our gift back to him. What a travesty it would be if we never looked inside and fully utilized our potential to honor him and his glory for what he intends to use it for. So see, I knew I wanted more. I wanted to do more, and in order to do that, I was going to have to give more and serve more and trust more. And in order to do that, I was going to have to quit making excuses in my life. Because here's what I know to be true. In life, there's good excuses, there's bad excuses, but at the end of the day, there's just excuses.
I just want everybody to know this conference was the best.
Very, very rewarding experience. I know that my staff got a lot out of it. I certainly got a lot out of it.
His insights are incredible, and the way that he can connect with any audience.
And I know he's able to bring the best out of everybody.
The group was incredible. The class was awesome. Highly recommended.
His performance today was just exceptional.
Uncomparable. Just great. I love him.
So when you get the chance, make sure you spend some time with Jay. get to know him because he definitely wants to get to know you, and he wants to serve you and your family, your business, and your community.
You're the bomb. I don't know how else to say it.